Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Plan and Zoning Commission of the City of Socorro, Texas. It is March 4th, 2025, 5:32 p.m. We call this meeting to order.
Item number 2, establishment of quorum. Andrew Arroyos,
Here.
Enrique Cisneros,
Here.
David Estrada,
Here.
Julie Dominguez, absent. Osvaldo Reza, absent. Yolanda Rodriguez. Here. We have a quorum with 4 commissioners present. Item number 3, open forum. Alfredo, do we have anyone that would like to speak?
Not at the moment.
Thank you. Item number 4, consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyo, second by Yolanda Rodriguez to approve. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Any abstain? Motion carried. Regular agenda, item number 5, presentation and discussion regarding the City of Socorro Undefined Development Code, UDC project. Mr. Botello?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Jose Botello, planner with the City of Socorro. Item number 5 on today's agenda has been postponed at the request of the consultants, which would be presented on March 18th, the following planning and zoning meeting.
Thank you. Item number 6, public hearing request for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and rezoning of Lot 11, Block 2, Las Milpas subdivision, located at 166 Tassie Way, Socorro, Texas, from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Medium Density Residential to allow for 3 apartment units. Mr. Arroyos?
We open public hearing at 5:34.
We had 2 speakers that would like to speak. Ms. Susana Morales? If you may please come to the podium. Si gusta pasar ahí al micrófono, por favor. Gracias, y si puede decir su nombre y tienen 3 minutos.
Buenas tardes. Mire,
Buenas tardes.
su nombre. Susana Morales, a sus órdenes. Mire, yo me rehúso a que hagan apartamentos ahí porque nuestra colonia es muy pequeñita, ¿ok? Nadie le ha puesto atención. No tenemos banquetas, nuestro pavimento está malo. Ahora que hicieron casas nuevas, allá por la Place, a la izquierda, nosotros necesitábamos una luz en la Place para poder salir de ahí, porque es mucho el tráfico, es mucho peligro para todo el mundo, ¿ok? Entonces, si hay apartamentos, ¿se imagina? Más trafical. Esa es la razón. Ya tenemos, esa colonia tiene más de 50 años ahí. Y no tiene luz, no tiene banquetas, el pavimento está muy malo. Okay, pero la más razón es por el tráfico, que hay mucho tráfico. Para salir de la Place a la Alameda, allí puede estar hasta media hora esperando para poder salir del trafical que hay. Okay, esa es mi razón. Okay, gracias.
We had our next speaker, Ms. Paula Barrera, I'm sorry. Buenas tardes. Paula Barrera. Usted me da.
Me llamo Heidi Arredondo, yo soy nieta de Paula Barrera, que ella es una dueña de propiedad en la Taxiway. Igual hablo por mi madre, Berta Barrera, que también es dueña en una calle en la calle de Taxiway. Estamos el día de hoy a no estar de acuerdo con los apartamentos por la razón similar. Hemos sido en nuestro barrio muy descuidado. Mi familia empezó a vivir en la Taxiway en 1975. Van a cumplir 50 años en octubre. Y entonces sí hemos sido muy descuidados, hicieron nuevas casas, igual como mencionaron anteriormente en la Place. Ellos sí tienen banquetas, está todo muy limpio y cuidado en las calles. Nuestras calles, si entran, obviamente hay muchos hoyos, es mucho mantenimiento para nuestros autos, ¿verdad? Muy inconveniente. Sí es muy oscuro y si nos hace falta luces. Y sí, igual estamos de acuerdo, hace falta mantenimiento antes de agregar en la comunidad. Igual, no estamos de acuerdo por esas razones que hemos estado muy descuidados.
Gracias.
Thank you.
That would be all the speakers we have signed in.
So we will close public hearing at 5:38.
Thank you. Item number 7, consider and take action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and rezoning of Lot 11, Block 2, Las Milpas subdivision, located at 166 Tassie Way, Socorro, Texas, from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Medium Density Residential to allow for 3 apartment units. Mr. Botello?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Item number 7 on the agenda is the rezoning request at 166 Tassie Way. Give me just one moment for the presentation to update. No. Okay, there we go. So some general information on this request. The property owners are Mr. Eric and Ivan Gomez Trujillo. The representative is Mr. Trujillo. The lot size is 9,060 square feet. The zoning for the property is R1, which is single-family residential. Current land use is vacant, and the future land use map for the Socorro 2040 comprehensive plan has this property listed as suburban residential. And so the request is for approval of rezoning of a property from R1 to R2 to allow for 3 apartment units, and staff recommends approval of the rezoning request. On the next slide, you'll see the property is situated along Tassie Way, right behind the Bovee Lateral, within close vicinity to Alameda Avenue. And then the next slide, you'll see the zoning map. The property is outlined in a thick red line. The yellow denoting the R1 single-family residential zoning district. And then the next slide, you'll see site pictures that were taken from Tassie Way of the property in question to rezone from R1 to R2. Oh, sorry, there you go. The next slide shows future land use map, yellow denoting the suburban residential foreseen in the Socorro 2040 comprehensive plan, future land use map. And then this is a map, a zoning map of the subdivision. This is Las Milpas Edition subdivision. This subdivision was recorded back in March of 1973. Consisting of 45 lots. 43 of those lots are R1. There's no R2 lots in that subdivision. There is one R3, as well as one C1, which is light commercial. And there's currently 2 vacant lots on the subdivision. And then the next slide, you'll see the public notice map. The properties that are within 200 feet of this rezoning request were notified of the intent to rezone. We did not receive any correspondence or calls regarding the rezoning request. Followed by the public notifications letters that were sent in both English and Spanish, letting our constituents know of today's public hearing for the rezoning request. And then on the next slide, you'll see the site plan showing the 3 apartment units that are being proposed. I believe each unit is around 900 square feet. Each unit requires 1.5 parking spaces. So in this case, it would require 5 parking spaces, which are shown towards on the bottom of the screen. And then you can see the ponding area towards the rear of the property. There's no encroachments on this site plan, so this site plan being presented is compliant with the area requirements for R2. And given the 9,060 square foot area for the property, the applicant is allowed, I believe, 3.11 units based on the 15 per unit limitation. And so the summary of the request is for approval of rezoning of a property from R1 to R2 to allow for 3 apartment units. And at this time, staff can answer any questions. We also have Mr. Trujillo present at today's meeting to answer any questions as well.
The first question I have, I've been trying to find it, the definition of the R2, what the limitations are. I know Mr. Marwa is always much better, faster than I am. On the, where can we find those definitions, or where?
It's listed on the purpose when you go to District 4, I believe. I can't recall which division it is, but when you go to R2, the purpose is where we outline the 15 units per acre limitation.
I don't know if there's a way that we can put it up on the screen. I used to bring the binder, but I should bring it again. 'Cause under purpose, yes, please. General regulations. Yeah. I wanted to see, what I also wanted to see if, what the limitations were when we don't need it to be a variance. So for example, if something is an R1, it has to be at least 10,000 square feet. If it's an R2, I guess there isn't a set minimum for an R2. Or I guess that's my question, is there a set minimum for an R2 without it having to be a variance?
I believe it's, if you can scroll down, Rafael, it should be under the area requirements. And there it is, I think, minimum lot area, 10,000 square feet for areas without public ponding. In this case, the subdivision was recorded back in March of 1973, which was when this part of Las Milpas addition was part of El Paso County prior to the city being incorporated in 86.
Okay.
These are area requirements for R2?
Correct.
But just the minimums, but again, it still has to, because it's an R1 right now, we still have to approve the variance, and so would city council.
But we're rezoning, aren't we? Going from R1 to
It is
R2?
a rezoning request from R1 to R2. It meets all of the area requirements for an R2. So there wouldn't be any need to ask for any variances.
Okay.
So let me just, I'm trying to understand. Okay, so since this lot, minimum lot area with ponding is 6,000 square feet. And so without the ponding, it's saying 10,000 square feet without ponding. Okay. I'm thinking that we've talked about this in the past, like the minimum lot square footage on it should be 10,000 square feet. But we've talked about like putting it inside the new code or into new ordinances, but that hasn't happened. And so my thoughts on this are that the density, I see what you're saying on the 15 units per acre, but that just seems like that's designed for like apartment complexes when you're dealing with acreages where the minimum lot square footage is 1 acre. And so 15 units per 1 acre is fine, but what we're doing here is working in reverse and coming up with a 3.1 and on this size lot with these type of subdivisions, it just seems that it's too dense, right? Although it fits under the 15 units per acre. So I know we've discussed it in the past, so on something like this, I'm thinking, yes, the rezone, but with a maximum of 2 units rather than the 3, because of the lot size.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
I second.
I have a motion made by Enrique Cisneros, second by Andrew Arroyos to go into executive session at 5:49. Any nays? Any abstain? Motion carried.
We are out of executive session and we'll continue back into regular session at 6:01.
I have a question. Can you put up, can you make it larger, the area requirements? To where it's on the screen so I can see it.
For you to see it there, that says, maybe you can have yours see
A while ago, it had like the whole, yeah, it was bigger. It didn't have the video on there. It was,
Let me,
okay, I can barely see it. I can't read it. But, okay, so right there where it says area requirements, it says area requirements for I can't see it. For the zone shall include minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet for areas with ponding. And we're assuming that it's on-site ponding, but it doesn't clarify. And then on B, it says 10,000 square feet for area without public ponding. So I think that's referencing public ponding, not on-site ponding. And so if the subdivision has public ponding, then your minimum square foot is 6,000 square feet. If you don't have public ponding, then your minimum is 10,000 square feet. And so I think we need to determine that or clarify that. But the way I'm understanding it, it's referencing public ponding and not on-site ponding.
the only thing is, I think that in their site plan, they are gonna have ponding on there.
But I think Mr. Estrada's making a comment about the ordinance and the way we're reading the ordinance.
Yeah, but and we don't have that information on here, so I don't know if you guys can read it, but a while ago it was larger and I was reading it during executive session and I was like, wait a minute, we need to clarify that because the square footage doesn't, what that's referencing with on-site ponding doesn't, the 6,000 square foot lot is very small. You can barely fit a single family on there. And single families homes don't require on-site ponding. And so for a duplex, you do require on-site ponding, right? On a 6,000 square foot lot, you can't have ponding and 2 units and the parking. And if you do the math, you'll probably get 2 units on there, right? It's too small. I don't think that ordinance is referencing on-site ponding. And so if we assume for a second that it's assuming public ponding, then the minimum square foot on this lot should be 10,000 square feet. But it's not there anymore. What I'm talking about isn't there right now. And so we really need to put it up there to see it.
Area requirements? More, right there.
Right there.
If you could scroll a little bit more down, Alfredo, so right there. Under where it says major arterial, 60 feet, ordinance number 76 was established in May 1st, 1989.
There you go.
Thank you. That's when the first zoning regulations were established by the city of Socorro. And like previously mentioned, this subdivision was recorded back in '73. I believe there's an ordinance that states that subdivisions recorded prior to a certain year abide by county subdivision standards. And going back to that time, there was no requirement for ponding areas, which is why you won't see it on this subdivision. Right, so we didn't look at that area requirement based on the fact that this subdivision was established back before this ordinance came into to be adopted by the city.
Well, I understand that, but so we're looking at this ordinance and applying it to this subdivision, but the ordinance itself is, I believe, referencing public ponding, not on-site ponding. Can you go back to that part up there? Scroll up or down, I'm not sure. Right there.
Right there.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's A and B, you know, A references ponding, and then B says without public ponding, so they're contradicting each other. If we assume that A is on-site ponding, then B is incorrect, or vice versa. So I don't think this
From my
ordinance,
understanding, this is the way the ordinance has been interpreted, but we can take a look back and look at amendments to see if something was missed.
well, what do you guys, what does the board think?
From past ones, I think, oh yeah, like the way it reads, you are correct, but from the past ones, I think it says, it means 6,000 with private ponding, but that's not what it says here.
You're saying in the past, like other cases, or?
If I remember correctly, on past ones that we've done before or whatnot, again, I might be wrong or whatnot, but
I'd tell you kind of, at least my legal look at the issue is that you only have two options, right? So you only have 6,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet. So it has to fit one or two. There's no third option. So if you look at it, it says, okay, 6,000 for areas with ponding. It doesn't say public or private. It just says if it has ponding, 6,000 feet. I think what it's meant to read on B is 10,000 square feet for areas without ponding. I think that word public's thrown in there. But the way I'm reading it above is areas with ponding have, you know, minimum 6,000, 10,000 for areas without ponding. It doesn't matter, I think, if it's private or public, but it's gotta fit one of those two. So if it doesn't fit one, then it must fit two. But I don't think there's any distinction made here between private or public. I think the concept really is that it wants to make sure that there's ponding, and if there's not, you know, not a ponding area, then it needs to be a larger square footage. And I think this particular application does have ponding listed on the
On-site.
actual on-site.
and it's 9,000 square feet, right? 9,000 square feet
9,000.
with
Correct.
What's the exact square footage on this one, on the 9,000?
9,060.
Okay, so it's about 1,000 short, or
About
940?
940.
So, go
My
ahead.
thoughts are, I'm super glad that we've got, you know, people that work in the construction business and in that field, because I wouldn't have interpreted that differently, and I'm glad that you did. And I'm super happy that right now we've got that third party looking at the ordinances, and we can ask them during Commissioner's report to look into that so that they can give us some clarification on that on the next ordinance. I think that however, I think that the applicants and the residents of the neighborhood want and need a vote on it. So it's, in my opinion, for this vote, I don't know how that definition, how either one of those definitions apply to this. And that's just because I'm not in the construction and arena. But it's definitely an opportunity to improve on the code, and it's a perfect time to do that. But, so, in my opinion, and give me some feedback if I'm interpreting this correctly now, or if I'm still kind of off. If it's 10,000 square feet without public ponding, it cannot be an R2, is the way that it's kind of interpreting, right?
So, the public ponding takes up square footage.
Yeah.
And so if it says on there without public ponding, it means that, for example, the newer subdivisions have public ponding.
Yeah.
These older subdivisions, it's on-site ponding.
Yeah.
And so if it doesn't have a pond like what we're presented with right here, then the square footage of the lot needs to be larger just so that it could accumulate water, because there's no pond built into it.
Yeah.
The lot itself would act as a pond. So without the public ponding, that water is gonna go onto the on-site
Yeah.
aspect of the lot square footage. without no collection area, and so that lot needs to be larger to be able to collect that water, is how I'm interpreting that. And so if it says on A, if you were to put in areas with public ponding, well, then that lot can be smaller because you have public ponding, such like the new subdivisions that we have, you have 5,000 square foot lots or 6,000 square foot lots because they're not on-site ponding. It's ponding, public ponding where all the water goes off the lot onto the street into the public ponding.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm thinking that this one,
Yeah.
it's, the public ponding is missing from A, is what I'm interpreting it as. And you're right, on this one, it doesn't, I mean, we gotta make a decision on this one, right? But
I got a,
if that's what we're applying to, if that's what we're using as the application, you know, the ordinance for future, for everything coming up, I don't think that's correct. And I think we can put it and decide and look at it, and it is what it is, if, you know, if it's correct or incorrect, or if I'm looking at it right or wrong.
I've got a quick question. So I'm assuming this has been taken to, on civil engineer or whatnot, and, the pond that I see here, I'm assuming is calculated by the civil engineer. Am I,
Has it been stamped by the engineer?
yes? So it shows that this size of pond would take the water from that lot. Okay. You want to state your name, say something?
Oh, buenas tardes, mi nombre es Eric Trujillo. Sí, el ingeniero dijo que el ponding estaba correcto, que el agua,
Está calculado
Está
para que
calculado,
cargue
sí.
el agua del terreno ese.
sí,
¿Y los planes ya están sellados?
no, no, todavía, como le comentaba a Mr. Botello, sí, está muy dense el terreno, no, yo no tengo problema nomás hacer 2 unidades.
Sí lo tomarán en consideración para
Sí,
bajarlo a 2 en
sí.
vez de 3.
Sí, está muy dense y está muy crowded, 2 está bien.
Pero no está sellado, ¿eh?
No, todavía no está sellado
Ok.
el plan.
I'm ready to make a motion if nobody has any questions. ¿Cuánto tiempo tiene con el terreno
Aproximadamente desde octubre del año pasado.
del año pasado? Ok.
Any questions? No?
So I'm ready to make a motion. So I'm going to make a motion for approval, but with the caveat that it only have a duplex or no more than 2 units, or 2 units or less. No accessory buildings. And the reason for that is for the density, the reasons I'm going to give for that is because of the density, the makeup of the neighborhood. Anything more than a duplex, in my opinion, will be more, it won't be in the spirit of the plans, and because of the neighbors' objections. So, and I'll tell you personally, I'm in favor of developing undeveloped lots. But I think that the neighbors have come and spoken, and adding a 2-unit instead of 1 unit, there's not gonna be a lot of traffic impacted. But that's my motion.
I think that helped clear
Sorry.
you guys up, yeah.
Sorry.
He made a motion, then he added,
And then
I think what he
I
was saying is, motion to approve with a maximum of
or
up to 2 units?
2 units or less,
2 units or less, with no accessory building.
no accessory buildings.
I second.
I have a motion made by Enrique Cisneros to approve with the condition of 2 units, no accessory buildings. Any, second by Andrew Arroyos. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays?
I'm gonna vote. Did you vote? Did you vote?
Yeah, I already voted.
You voted. Okay, I'm gonna vote no, but I'd like it to be put on there. The reason is that I believe that these lots should be minimum 10,000 square foot. And then we can discuss that at another time.
Motion,
Okay.
nay. And then Mr. Estrada, you also did nay?
I said I said nay.
Nay. So motion failed.
So in these instances, we can go another 2 votes? Further discussion? We can table it, we can vote on it no again, 2 more times, total of 3, and then it goes to city council. And then it goes from there. Any further discussion?
I'd like to hear your reasoning for the no.
My
Yeah.
reason for the no
Yeah.
would be that, first, I'm listening to the residents in the neighborhood. And second of all is, I think that these properties were originally a residential lots. And I think that the character of the neighborhood needs to be consistent. I think that those other lots that exist currently were maybe grandfathered in, that are in R3, and maybe some commercial that might be out there. I said, but now if Socorro's intention is to move forward and to bring these communities more together, is to hold the character of the community, because most of them are residential.
Yeah,
That's my vote.
yeah. Okay. So I know this neighborhood very well. I can tell you that there are some more than 1 units that are non-compliant. If I've got some notes for when we get to commissioner's report about that. I'd like to hear from the neighbors, if possible, if they would be okay with 2 units, to see if that can either move us forward, or hey, let's keep it R1, and then it goes to city council. Would you guys be okay with that?
I'm okay. So we
So-
would have to open a public hearing again for that?
Yeah, that's up to the chair if you want to have a public hearing.
Okay, so, and I completely understand, and we want to keep these established neighborhoods the way that they are. The unfortunate part is there's just so many vacant lots. And luckily in this one, it sounds like there's only 3 of them. But there's so many vacant lots throughout the entire city that have just not been developed. And there's gotta be a financial, economic incentive where we can develop these lots. So there's gonna be situations where they go from single residential household to duplexes, but so they're competing interests right now, right? And I'm okay with that. But, so we definitely understand, entendemos completamente de que, pues tiene que haber un incentivo económico para desarrollar estos terrenos, ¿verdad? Pero también pues son intereses que van compitiendo con los residentes que ya viven ahí. So, lo que me gustaría es, para los vecinos que viven en esa área, que nos den su opinión lo más rápido posible, si es posible, si estarían de acuerdo con un duplex. No 3 unidades, pero 2 unidades para que se pueda desarrollar este terreno.
Yeah,
Please?
well,
So-
hold on one second. So if
I'd
we
like
need
to
to
make a motion.
open, I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstain? Motion carried.
Ahora sí puede pasar.
Si gusta pasar,
If you
I'm
just want to
sorry.
set a time limit,
yes.
yeah.
Con 3, vamos a dejarlos a hablar y luego les vamos a dar un límite de 3 minutos a cada persona.
Okay,
¿Sí? Gracias.
so my name is Lourdes Almanza. I live at 155 Tassie Way. So we're okay with 2 units. We would prefer 1 unit because, again, this is a smaller neighborhood. It's residential, it's quiet, and we're afraid that with more, it'll get louder, more vehicles coming through. And so, I mean, we're okay with 2, but we prefer 1.
And we appreciate that you're honestly right, saying we'd rather at 1, but we're okay with 2. And I think that the applicant is willing to say, okay, well, I'm listening to the neighbors, so I'm okay with 2 also.
And our biggest
Thank you.
concern was that lot, I mean, it does, the way it's drawn there, it feels like it's big, but it's not. It's a smaller lot. And so 3 units do not fit there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
It's not possible.
good thing is 3 units is off the table.
Yes.
So it's between 1 or 2, you guys tell us.
I think she would like to
Okay,
see.
next.
Me llamo Leonor Teres y yo vivo en 148 Tassiway. My concern is, you were talking about ponding. It floods. That's our main issue. My house is cracked. And I'm thinking, if they're gonna build and start moving around, it's sand. So se va a caer mi casa. Pueden ir a verla. Pero para mí, con que le muevan ahí, si la casa que se hizo at the end of that road, se movió mucho mi casa. Cuando nosotros llegamos ahí, no había fundación. So I'm thinking, se va a caer mi casa. Tienen que ir a chequear primero cómo va a salir esa agua, porque nos hacemos floods. Y no en mi casa, gracias a Dios ahí no, pero para la entrada sí se hacen muchos floods. And I'm concerned because as soon as that happens, what's going to happen with my house? Alguien tiene que ir a chequear todo eso. If not, I'm going to be without my house. That's my concern.
Just,
I mean, everybody could build whatever they want, but please make sure that before you do it, consider us, because si pasa algo, se va a caer mi casa.
I'd like to give you maybe a little bit of peace of mind, ¿verdad? Like with this, in this situation, what the applicant is asking, they're gonna install their own ponding area, right? So that water from that lot has to go into their lot only. Can't go out anywhere else.
Okay, but how is that going to happen? ¿Cómo va el sewer de nosotros?
¿Cómo que? I'm sorry?
¿Cómo va a ir el sewer de nosotros?
¿El sewer o el...?
Pues todo,
No,
en
no.
realidad.
Se tiene que quedar igual, no va a pasar nada con lo de ustedes. Nomás el terreno ese tiene que cargar la agua que él es responsable por su terreno.
So,
Está muy chiquito allí,
yeah.
donde están diciendo, yo dije, ¿cómo van a poner para el apartamento si está chiquito? Ahora, el tráfico es otra cosa, porque la entrada de nosotros de la Alameda para acá, nos quedamos, tenemos que irnos por la Place para irnos por la Buford o para otro lado, porque ya no podemos ni siquiera salir por ahí. Ahora entrar más gente todavía, si con las residencias que están nuevas hay mucho tráfico y no tenemos luz, las luces que tenemos se apagan. Yo que ustedes les pediría un favor que fueran a ver. Ya tenemos muchos años allí. Por favor.
So,
Muchas
but
gracias.
ya se acabaron sus 3 minutos, pero más para darle un poquito de información. So, hay una fórmula de ingeniería que toma en cuenta, ok, si este edificio toma tanto pie cuadrado en un terreno, se necesita que va a estar tanta agua en caso de una lluvia fuerte. Y en ese formulario ingeniero tienen que tomar tanto espacio para ese desagüe dentro de la propiedad. So, la agua que caiga en esa propiedad se va a quedar en esa propiedad, ¿verdad? Lo que se toma en cuenta en cuanto al tráfico, desafortunadamente no se puede tomar mucho en cuenta en estos proyectos, pero al fin del Commissioner's Report vamos a pedir que la ciudad vea qué se puede hacer en cuanto a lo de lighting y sidewalks. Va a tardar mucho, pero lo vamos a tomar en cuenta. Mr. Body, if a developer develops and it damages a neighboring property, does that neighbor with the damaged property have a case against the developer?
Yeah, sure, they have a private cause of action if somebody causes harm to somebody's
Sí.
property.
En el evento que el desarrollo de una propiedad le causa daños a su propiedad, usted tiene causa para una demanda. El desarrollo de una propiedad no le debe dañar a su propiedad y en el evento que llegara a pasar, usted tiene derecho a demandar.
Okay.
Pero la pregunta es, siempre y cuando el agua se quede en el terreno de desarrollo y que no le afecte en su propiedad, ¿qué tanto estaría en favor de un dúplex de 2 unidades? Ya 3 no va a haber.
Yo nomás con uno, de
Con uno,
perdida
ok.
uno.
¿Ok?
Un duplex.
Un duplex
Un
nomás.
dúplex.
Ya
Ok.
más de eso, I don't think it's...
Ok.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
¿Alguien más?
Me llamo Heidi Arredondo, represento a Paula Barrera y Berta Barrera, que son 2 dueños de propiedad en la Taxiway. Igual, preferible uno, si son 2, pues bien. Con la condición, si se puede arreglar el puente de la entrada de la place. Sí vimos que se arregló el de Buford Horizon Alameda. Ahorita el Bobby está en construcción, que está bien, qué bueno. También, ¿verdad? Han puesto muras en el medio de la calle para poder cruzar. Entonces, también tomando en cuenta si va a ser 2, si va a ser poquito más tráfico, ¿verdad? Que se reconoce y todo. Si nos ha faltado un poquito más seguridad en la entrada de ese puente. Y igual para reparar las calles. Entonces, igual, preferido uno, pero si son 2, bueno. Pero no nos olviden de nosotros. Estamos ahí y somos parte de la comunidad. Y muchas gracias.
Pero nomás para, just to clarify,
Sí.
one duplex.
Un duplex,
Un
correcto.
duplex. Not 2 units,
Preferido,
one
si son 2, bueno, pero preferido uno.
duplex. Ok.
Muchas gracias.
Jaime Barbosa, 160 Tassie. We're in favor of 2 units, however, doesn't matter to me.
Thank you.
¿Alguien más? Okay. So then, here's my question.
Hold on, do we,
Look,
we gotta
Yeah,
close.
so
We
I
gotta
vote
close
close
public
public
hearing,
We will
please.
close public hearing at 6:28.
6:28, thank you.
So my question is, it can be a smaller footprint, and instead of it being 2 apartments, it could be just 1 duplex, right? That's what I'm thinking for my motion. Any questions, anything?
Like you're saying attached rather than detached, or?
That's what I kind of heard from the neighbors, right? That's my, if anybody interpreted something
Right.
differently, let me know. I interpreted they were okay with a duplex more than a 2-unit.
Right,
So,
that's your interpretation.
just for my information, what is the size of a duplex compared to this 900-foot?
It's exactly the same, it's just together. They'll have a firewall in between or whatnot, but it'll be the same.
So
Just
it's gonna
combined.
be, so you'll have 1,000
Can we add that as part of the caveats or the,
instead of 2 separate ones?
that it be 1 unit and it not go above?
You can, but what I might suggest is just asking the applicant to see
Yeah.
if that's feasible, because if, sometimes I say, you know what, I don't even wanna change it, then if you're gonna do that, so I'll give them the chance maybe to.
No, go ahead, you go ahead and ask.
Una pregunta, para el señor Trujillo, ¿qué tanto, cómo ves si se pudiera hacer un dúplex en vez de que fueran 2 unidades separadas, que fuera una unidad, pero que se partiera para que hubiera 2 unidades, pero todo en un techo?
Yeah, I can take it in consideration. I would have to redo the pipe stand and talk to the engineer, and I mean, I guess I'm okay with it.
And the reason is we want to find, and I'll tell you me particularly, one is I want to make sure that we give people that want to develop lots the tools that they need to develop.
Right.
2, we have to make sure that we take into consideration the neighbors, because if they say no, you still have to go to city council.
Right.
City council, and I think that's what's really, in my conversation with city council and mayor, is they want to get this thing as much as we can here. Would you be okay with doing 1 duplex so that we can help you move forward with this?
Yeah, and for that, the square footage for that duplex has to be a certain square footage, or can it be?
It can be the same,
This-
to me, it can be the same, it's just, again, you would
Together,
put them
right.
together or whatnot.
Can it be a little bit bigger?
Well, these are like a 2-bedroom, right?
Right.
So, I mean,
Well, yeah.
there's 3-bedroom units that you can do duplexes or whatnot. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. I can work with that.
let me ask you a question. So these, according to the report, they were 900 square foot units, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's say, what if we did no bigger than 22 square feet? You know, that's more than, so long as you kept it as a duplex, would that be?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I will have to talk to my wife too about it to see if we can, if we want to keep it at the 900 or maybe
Okay.
a little bit bigger. But yeah, I'm still open for the duplex. We can work at that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I was gonna say, if you're thinking about limiting the square footage, I would, again, just use up to, so that if the gentleman goes and gets plans and he decides to do less or something, he's not bound by.
So let's say less than 50% of, is that too big?
I would probably say about, because these are 900 square feet, right? And if you were to do a three-bedroom unit,
Yeah.
usually those are about 1,000 square feet, so no more than 2,000 square feet.
Can we do a little bit more just to, you know?
Right.
Make sure he
Yeah, I'm
has
just-
the tools, maybe 2,500 square feet?
Well, I have a question. Okay, so now that some of the residents have agreed that 2 is okay, okay, and some of them have said 1 preferably, but not saying no to the 2, okay. I would like to hear from the applicant, because first of all, we're not here to discourage you from building on that property. We want to be able to come to a concession and say, okay, we're going to help you get to where you want to go. Obviously, you just purchased this property, so you saw it as an investment, I would think, is to
Correct.
build something there, okay? This site plan that you have here has for parking in the front. And then, so these lots, the back side would eliminate the one in the back, I would think, right?
Right.
And so in that back area, you would have to do something.
Well, the ponding,
You have a ponding way
Right.
in the back.
Right.
So you still have like 24 feet from the back of this duplex, or this back of this apartment to the ponding. And because you're gonna have 2 separate families in there, that obviously you're gonna have kids or something. I think, where I'm going is that I think that since the residents have approved the two apartments, I would think that maybe we should go with that. That's where I'm going. We heard from most of them, you didn't get a no. So I'm thinking, why,
Why change it, just leave
yeah,
it
why
the way it is?
turn them upside down
Okay.
and
And
have him
limit
do
it.
everything?
Okay.
Because right now, he's got these 2 right now, because you've already convinced me, they have convinced me that it's okay to have the 2.
So then, instead of a duplex, have the 2 separate units?
That point right there, I'm not understanding or reading the room as in either duplex, like that by it being it just means that they're joined.
Yeah, they're just
But
together.
I don't think it matters whether it's, to them, it's 2 units, 2 families, whether they're joined or not.
Right. Okay.
I'll
Okay.
say that this design is nicer, more
Yes.
innovative, and I
Yeah.
think that when they're separated like this, because there is no party wall, that you can generate higher rental incomes when they're like this. It's just a nicer setup. The units that are, I don't generally like that concept.
Okay.
I think this is a
Yeah.
better.
You'll have leeways between the 2 buildings, and you still have some space in the back.
Right.
Whether you put, a grass out there or a playground for the kids or something, you got something to do in the back. And I would prefer, just like Mr. Estrada, is that these 2, the way this site plan looks right now is better than sticking them together.
Okay.
Okay, so can we make a motion?
Yeah. So I'm gonna make a motion for approval, with the caveat that it be 2 or less units with no accessory buildings. That sound about right?
Yes.
I kind of missed the wording on that, you might have to repeat,
Sorry.
sorry.
So, I'm gonna make a motion for approval with 2 or less units,
Okay, yeah, that's fine,
with no accessory buildings.
that's fine.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion made by Enrique Cisneros, second by Andrew Arroyos, to approve with the condition to be 2 or less units with no accessory buildings. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstain?
Okay. Okay, so it passed, right? It's gonna be
Yeah.
3. Okay, I'm gonna vote no, but because I wanna be consistent on, just like I said on the other one, I think that rather than we're kicking it down the road, right? Instead of establishing the minimum, the criteria, the whole, there's a lot in there that it's missing. So I'm gonna vote no for that reason. But in general, I like the concept.
Do I have any abstain? Motion carried. Item number 8, consider and take action on the adjournment, consider and take action on an ordinance amending Chapter 38, Article 1, Section 38-4, exception of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Socorro, Texas, to add planning exceptions. Mr. Botello?
And actually, if you don't mind me interrupting, maybe if the chair doesn't mind explaining to maybe the public that that item has been voted on, so if they want to leave, they're free to leave, but
Okay.
it'll be at city council?
Si gustan esperar, if you guys want to wait just a minute.
Mr. Trujillo?
I think you told them.
You told-
But
Okay.
these guys, so they don't sit here waiting for another.
Nomás para que sepan que ya pasó, pero todavía se tiene que ir al City Council. Va a ser is it going to be this Thursday?
For the public hearing will be April the 3rd.
Ok, abril 3 va a ser para public hearing, por si gustan ir. Pero ahorita por lo pronto, si no se quieren esperar para las otras cosas, ya se pueden ir. Pero sí pasó así más o menos a como quedamos de acuerdo.
Y muchas gracias por haber venido, la verdad. No.
Y sé que está para las luces, para salirse puede ser una aplicación, ¿verdad? O nomás para hacer eso dentro de eso.
Yes, so she's asking where she can, like for public lights and bridges and all that, street repairs, she just has an application or whatnot.
Let me give you my card and then you can call me and I can show you.
Muchas gracias, eh.
Sorry, I interrupted you guys. I figured,
Yeah.
save them 30 minutes for sitting for, sometimes they don't, you know.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Jose Botello, planner with the City of Socorro. Item number 8 on the agenda is the ordinance amending Chapter 38, Article 1, Section 38-4, which is exemptions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Socorro, Texas, to add plating exemptions. Apologies, having technical issues with the remote. So for this ordinance amendment, under the summary, we're stating that public utilities such as substations and minor utility facilities are essential services. Exempting them from plating requirements will ensure that these facilities can be installed and expanded efficiently to meet the community's needs. And so for some background on this ordinance amendment, substations and minor utility facilities often need to cross property lines or to be placed in locations that do not conform to standard plating regulations. While the city is currently undertaking a comprehensive revision of its zoning ordinance, there may be instances where targeted amendments are necessary to address immediate needs. And for the statement of the issue, with the county as a whole experiencing rapid growth, Socorro itself is trying to meet the needs of expanding infrastructure, and granting planning exemptions for utility facilities will make will enable El Paso Electric to meet the community's growing demand efficiently. And so staff recommends approval of the amendment to Chapter 38, Article 1, Section 38-4, which is exemptions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Socorro, Texas to add plating exemptions. And on the next slide, you'll see the language. It's very hard to read from this distance, but it's stating that utilities are exempt from plating to make the process of developing these substations and improving the infrastructure a little bit easier.
If I can help Mr. Badea out here as well. So the only change actually is that it's very small writing, it's blue writing at the end. That last paragraph is the rest of it's the same. I reviewed this ordinance change as well. It's just something that was missing in the Socorro City Code. It's in every other city. We were missing, and I don't know how actually the utilities got by without, I guess it was an issue, but because they're having to extend a lot of service, it almost requires a plat a lot of times when it's undeveloped property. They're just putting in lines or a substation or something, and so every other municipality has this. This is another thing that we caught, that it's forcing a replat every time or a plat be filed. So that's the explanation of it.
I have a question. So just like any other entity, El Paso Electric, Lower Valley Water District, they have to get permits to develop. Even they would still have to get those permits, pay for those permits, even if we define.
I think it's more for an easement, no, for,
Yeah, I'm not sure about the construction permit process. Do you guys get applications for those from utilities?
Yes, so
Okay.
different entities are different, and some entities with the city of Socorro have franchise agreements, and that may be all worked out
That's right.
in franchise agreements where they lays out the agreement between the city and the entity.
So this wouldn't affect that, or this is something completely different?
This is different, this
Okay.
is plating.
Yeah, I think because since it's for a public purpose, which is to provide utilities, it's kind of falls in a different category. If that helps explain it. But yeah, there's franchise agreements, I think, with every utility, the water people, the electricity. There's something called interlocal agreements with the other entities.
And what would change, I mean, if this goes through?
So the last line that adds there, it says there, I need to read it actually on a piece of paper because I
Says-
can't. Let me see. The words that are added at the end, paragraph 13 says, basically an exemption for planning is land to be used for electric company substations or other minor utility facilities as defined in chapter 46 of the city code.
so it just wouldn't have to be replatted, right?
That's right, yeah, they wouldn't have to file an application every time. This is more of the minor things, obviously, they're building a huge power plant or something, that's its whole separate thing.
I guess my question would be for the city, do you foresee anything in the future where you would want them to come back and have to plat or I guess you never want to give free access or take away any type of requirements. I mean, they were obviously there for a reason, but does the city see that, should we sunset this to see how it works out? It sounds like other municipalities already have it in place and it's not a non-issue. I just want to make sure that if it's a non-issue.
Yeah, I just think it's just more of an omission, again, I get our city's part, and I think, I'd assume they were filing applications every time, but they may not have been.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of unusual that we didn't have that in there, but, yeah, I think to your point of, does it create an issue? Electric companies are a little bit weird because it's a private company, but it provides a public utility.
Yeah.
So they actually are entitled to a lot of the same rights, as a government, as a city is, so they can actually condemn property and everything. I know because I fought the electric company where they were trying to condemn my client's properties as a private attorney, and they have the full power, like they're the city or the state. If they need to build, electricity and put power lines in, they can go condemn it and build it right through your land if it's required. So it's kind of like, between us, the city, and the electric company, it's kind of both governmental entities almost.
To me, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm reading it as if it's just a way for them to speed up the process, right? For not having to replat, to be able to give
That's
services
right.
to wherever they're extending to.
It's kind of the unnecessary red tape that I think that we had. And I think some of the other issues too is, I think this week we've been okay, but these unusual high winds and everything knocks out power lines and those kind of things. And then every time they need to develop infrastructure and all the growth here, we had this kind of red tape that we didn't realize it requires to go through 5 different steps. Again, if it's a minor issue, fine, that's what really the exemption for. If it's a larger, and sometimes they may own, the replatting everything is more to capture, you're selling property, it involves different developers, that's why it's coming to planning and zoning. In some cases it could be where it's 2 undeveloped pieces of property next to each other, but it requires a substation that's on both. That means you're building on both together. Do you need to combine it? Do you need to file a replat? There's nothing else out there, So,
No, and with the development the city of Socorro and the county and the outskirts are having, I completely believe in giving El Paso Electric all the tools that they need to get caught up on all that. What I worry about, and I could definitely say that I know very little about the positive or negative effects of this, but I just want to give the city the tools that they might need to pull this back if they need to, in case they wanted to approve it with a sunset of 2 years or something like that. That's the only thing I'm worried about. Does the city foresee anything, or hey, let's go with it, prove it, and we'll just sunset it every 2 or 5 years? No? Okay. Okay. Thank you. That was my question. Make a motion to approve.
I second.
I have a motion made by Enrique Cisneros, second by Andrew Arroyos to approve. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstain? Motion carried. Item number 9, consider and take action on the ordinance amending Chapter 46, Article 1 in general, and Article 4, District Regulations of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Socorro, Texas, to add definitions, permit uses, and conditional use. Mr. Botello?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Item number 9 on the agenda is an ordinance amending Chapter 46, Article 1 in general, and Article 4, District Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Socorro, Texas, to add definitions, permitted uses, and conditional uses. And similar to the previous item, the current Code of Ordinances includes limited definitions, permitted uses, and conditional uses for electric public utilities, public utility facilities, or public utility services in various zoning districts. Existing zoning regulations lack clear definitions, permitted uses, and conditional uses for public utility facilities, which are essential for serving the growing needs of the community. And city staff is working in partnership with the El Paso Electric, which is working to increase service demands in the city of Socorro. Recognizing the county's rapid growth, El Paso Electric has identified Socorro as a key location to address potential future service gaps. And allowing minor utility facilities in various zoning districts will help ensure the community's needs are met efficiently. And so Planning and Zoning staff recommends approval of the amendment to Chapter 46, Article 1 in general, and Article 4, District Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Socorro, Texas, to add definitions, permitted uses, and conditional uses. And as Marwan stated, in this, you'll see the revisions outlined with the underlined in the blue text. Any text being removed is strike through in red with the red ink. And so these are, I believe these pages are included in your backup, but these are the amendments being made in both Article 1 and Article 4. And I'll skim through them right away, but the summary of the request, once again, is for approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 46, Article 1 in general, and Article 4, District Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Socorro, Texas, to add definitions, permitted uses, and conditional uses. And at this time, staff can answer any questions.
I think if I can jump in again here to help, so this, again, this is related to that last change. The major changes that you're seeing here, because I know there's a bunch here, this is all at the beginning, the blue writing that's underlined. It's adding the definitions of what's the difference between a minor utility, waste and water utility facilities, communication utility facilities, major utility facilities, public utility service. A lot of this, we're pulling the definitions actually from the Texas Local Government Code. So this is just filling in the definitions here, and then I think on the other changes throughout here, at the end of all of them, it's adding either major or minor utility facilities. So this is kind of the filling in what's missing gap. Kind of like on the issue that you guys discussed about the ponding, about there's no definition of, this is really kind of the way to fix something is if we make one change, filling in the definition of where it's missing. So it's consistent throughout. That's the only thing I have.
Yeah, thank you, Marwan.
Any questions?
Any questions?
No? Make a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion made by Arroyo, second by Enrique Cisneros to approve. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstain? Motion carried. Item number 10, Planning and Zoning Commissioners Report.
I have a question. So, on these lot splits or for these duplexes that are coming in, for example, like today's or whatnot, I know we've talked about maybe setting like the minimum of 10,000 square feet to allow for a duplex. How fast can we move on changing that ordinance or because we're seeing a lot of these, right? And as they come in or whatnot, maybe if it's changed and the applicant sees the application already and they see that it's under, they don't comply with having that, at least that 10,000, they know that they won't be able to put in that application or whatnot, so.
Generally, just the, 2 months that it takes to get through planning and zoning to city council. And we can go ahead and talk to the consultants, because then we have another year to make sure we can word that so that it's consistent with so that they can be consistent moving forward with the development of the UDC. If they have any other things that they think we should consider, we can bring those forward as well.
What about, I want to get like your feedback, right? Is that something that doesn't sound like outrageous in doing, I don't know, everybody else's input or whatnot, David? You've talked about.
I think there's so many subdivisions out there, like these that we're looking at, and there's so many infill lots out there, and then homes that are condemned, that need to be demolished, that it's helpful to just have the criteria already set. We look at it, or maybe, as it's coming up through the pipeline.
But is that something that like everybody agrees on, that saying 10,000 square feet is something fair to ask for on a duplex?
So personally, if I look at it from one direction, it's great to get 4 or 5, on there. It's great, high density, awesome. But at the same time, I'm looking at people like today, they've lived there for their whole lives with a vacant lot there, and all of a sudden they're going to have 3 different families living there on a 10,000 square foot lot, right? Or 15,000 or whatever that lot size is. A lot of these subdivisions are minimum 10,000 square feet.
Which is a good point, and would have been an interesting question to get everybody's feedback back on as well. How do you feel about this vacant lot just sitting there? How long has it been there? It was intended to be residential. And the view of whether a duplex is residential, which a lot of people would argue that it is, and a single family home being residential, or these smaller 2 separate. So it's still all in the character of residential, but larger lot with a little more open space. And you can also see that somebody had a direction back in 1973 that didn't take hold. There, that end of Tassie Way is a dead end because there were plans for a future
Yeah.
development. There was plans for future development that hasn't happened. So we can ask Able City for just some feedback about the 10,000. Look at what the comp plan says about the densities and also take into consideration the options of coverage of lots where they're looking or where they might think that fits into the discussions we've had and the information we have gathered from previous meetings, all with these ideas, right? The ones that have come as duplexes or quads, and then also to Mr. Cisneros' point about incentives, we would like to see these develop, we would like to increase these, we'd like to see these subdivisions be built out to what they were intended, right? So what are the barriers to that?
I agree though with Mr. Arroyos, is that it would eliminate a lot of work on the applicant side when he went out and did all three of these site plans, and knowing that probably over here, we're gonna say you're too, you know, it's too much density there, okay? And I think if we have at least some kind of a direction to give them to say, if on the unified code is that we were to say that a 10,000 square foot residential going to an R2 can only accommodate 2, okay, I would be happy with that, okay? Because we do get a lot of them that come forward. Now, when you're looking at a C1 or R3 or whatever that is, where you can put on a 10,000 square foot lot, you can put 5 units because they're gonna be this way, all the way this way. But it's not in a residential area. I think there's a defined separation there that we need to be able to say when they come and apply, okay, this is all residential, so if you wanna, I can take it too, but if the unified code is already 10,000 square feet and you can only do a max of 2, then they don't even have to come and argue with us. You see what I'm saying? Because then that's already a unified code. Am I wrong, or are we looking at this in a different way?
No, and we can, so Mr. Arroyos is asking us to move it forward before the code rewrite, and which we can, and we can get some feedback from them as well.
Right, because we also have the same problem with all the variances that we get, you know, the height of the warehouses, we always say, okay, let's give them the 50 or compared to the 47 or whatever it is. We always say, let's give them less parking because we want them to build that warehouse. So I think that at that point, we have to say that we're gonna approve them anyway. Okay, so why not go ahead and jump to that now? And also the variance from the frontage of the lots on the commercial property that we have down North Loop. Everybody's coming to us saying, I don't wanna do 60, I wanna do 30. Can I do 30? And we want them to build, so we say, yes, give them 30. And it's not only coming here, but it's also going to appropriations, because I saw a meeting where they approved a 30-foot variance, and I was like, okay, where is it, why is it over there? But in either case, I think that if we can move faster to get unified codes without waiting for the consultants to help us do that, is to take it to city council and get those approved, then it would help us here and commissioners in the planning and zoning.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna add was, you know, that's a good point, is that, because there were so many issues in the past, that's why they ended up coming to this point of getting the consultants to do this, because, and this, as a lawyer, I hesitate to make any major changes right now until I see what comes out, because it could be further screwing up something that's in the works, you know. they've got the comprehensive plan they did, and then they've got the rewrite with the UDC. So it should all should kind of flow together. So lot sizes, what kind of parts of town, how we want to designate the zoning districts. Do we want to change or add, the zoning district? So they're kind of bigger policy things. So as a lawyer, I'm trying to, although I understand your frustration that you're here hearing these cases all this year while you see problems. One of the things too is on that ponding issue that you guys notice, because you'll see inconsistencies in the code, is we tried, I think as a commission, probably a good idea not to hold it against the applicant. Because whoever the applicant comes in, they were doing, I think, kind of like you guys said, they don't know what they're doing, they fill out the application, they think they're following the code, but they don't know there's an inconsistency. So if it's held against them, it's like, well, it's not his fault, it's because the city screwed up and missed something, and so then you gotta find a way to accommodate if it's the city's fault. Now, if it's his fault, or, I'm not saying that particular guy, but I'm saying it's the applicant's fault, because they didn't pay attention, they didn't read, then it's like, well, these are the laws, these are the statute, this is the ordinances, you gotta follow it. But yeah, sometimes if I notice that it's the city's fault, we say, what, our bad, we have to kind of figure a way around it, which I think you guys generally do anyway, but I thought I'd mention that as a lawyer, a lot of times I look at, I do after review of maybe screw ups that happen at the city. And if it's the city's fault, when you get frustrated with government and then somebody messes up and you call down there and nobody's picking up and it's like, sometimes, it's our fault, we gotta fix it, let's find a way around it, not penalize the citizen for it, and then, we move on, so. You hope that's what government does, is fixes the problem sometimes, so. But I think you guys caught one, is that there's inconsistent wording on that one, and then probably no definition, right? So.
And I think also what's gonna be important is that, yes, we want them to build, we want them to develop, but also we need the city to keep up. Just like they said, the roads, no sidewalks, and I think that is something that needs to get. That is a very old neighborhood, okay?
So that would, to the next point would be, is in commissioner's report when it goes to city council, can we have staff look into if there's plans for future lighting there, if they're part of on the list for any sidewalks in the future, lighting? Can we bring that up? Okay. And then, I don't know, so I've driven through that neighborhood. We looked at a property in that neighborhood and there was a number of duplexes, or what I was like, hey, that looks like a duplex, that looks like a quadplex.
Non-legal or
Non-conforming or,
Legal non-conforming.
legal.
yeah. So I don't know if we want to send an inspector in the neighborhood, just say, kind of identify those.
But, okay, so legal non-conforming meaning the city's aware, but they're okay, they've issued a permit maybe. It's non-conforming, but it's legal in the sense that we're aware and it's okay for them to proceed?
If there are legal non-conforming, that means that they were in existence before the city's zoning ordinances were in place. So 1989, 86, 89 wasn't that long ago.
But I haven't made that report yet.
Huh? Oh.
This is just a discussion. If that's something that you think we should do,
Well,
I don't know.
I think that because, first, the residents of Socorro understand that we are very low-staffed on code enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay, and when you get an opportunity, or when they get an opportunity to hurry up and build it, they do it, okay? Unless the neighbors call or somebody complains.
Yeah, and none of the neighbors have complained, because
Nobody's
otherwise
gonna do that.
they would have had to come and report it and
Right, right,
identify
right.
it. But anyways, that's not part of my report.
Now, I do have a question, going on to something else, is, there was on our last, or I saw it on social media, that the sidewalks were coming up, and there were all these streets that were named. I haven't seen any yet. My neighborhood is supposed to get a couple of streets. I was so excited. The neighbors were notified, some of them, they knocked on doors and told them that they were gonna start on the 17th, but nobody's been there, and nobody's come around. But a suggestion. I don't know whether you can take the lead with it, Lorraine, is that I think that we would get a better response or a better outlook in our neighborhoods if we could complete a neighborhood and move to the next one. Instead of piecemealing a neighborhood and piecemealing this neighborhood and piecemealing this neighborhood, because sometimes they don't come back, okay? And I think that, is there a possibility to, when we do a sidewalk project, is to finish the neighborhood and then move on to the next neighborhood? Are you guys with me, or
So,
your feet on it?
so my understanding is that every city council person gets an allotted amount. And every city council obviously has to advocate for their piece of the city. And we're lucky that in this year, we got $4 million from the federal government through Congresswoman Escobar. Was it 4 million?
I thought it was 7, but that was for the Moon Road
Yeah,
project, right?
Whatever that amount was.
7 or something.
But that's the hard part, where that would mean, and I might be wrong on this, but that would mean, hey, if I were on city council, which I'm not, unfortunately, that would mean that either everybody else's budget would have to come to one district, or the budget that's going to my district would have to go somewhere else. And that's the hard part. But that's, yeah.
And the only reason I bring it up is because years ago, we got driveways in our neighborhood, you know, and only some got sidewalks, and not everybody got sidewalks. So all those that didn't get sidewalks, and it was because they were going by the alphabet. Okay, we were letter D, so we got sidewalks, okay? I mean, we got driveways, okay? But I think that what happens is that when you go into older neighborhoods, it's really awful to see that that sidewalk was there 10 years ago and not the other side has never been built. That's the only reason I brought it up.
And just some background on that from my point of view, because we have an insurance practice, so we meet with clients all day, every day. We meet with the public, and I've been on planning and zoning for, this will be our 5th year, 6th year, and they always ask, Enrique, when are you going to put in sidewalks? And one of the things I have to explain to them is, when anybody develops a lot, whether it's one lot, whether it's 100 lots, the developer is the one deciding what is going into those properties.
Right.
So if somebody bought their property 20 years ago, 50 years ago, and they didn't put a sidewalk, that's the choice that they made as a developer. So I live in one of the developed lots. I've got one of those cookie cutter houses, and we love our home. And so what happens is the sidewalk, the public ponding, the public parks, that's divided up between that entire development. And I tell that to my clients because yes, the city can get funds and develop an entire neighborhood of sidewalks, but they can't piecemeal, like, hey, we're gonna give, it's gotta be part of a developmental plan because it is considered, or it could be considered land improvement on private property, right? So that's where it gets into and you guys know more than I do, and city staff can define it better than I can. But what I tell my clients is that's the hard part. We're taking public funds, putting on private property when it's older neighborhoods. When it's newer neighborhoods, that cost is spread around the whole development. It's an imperfect situation, but I think that when clients understand that, it's a little easier. I don't know. Yeah, but that's.
Okay, well, you answered my question.
So I was just gonna add, I got a little bit nervous when you guys mentioned the private driveways, and I don't know if you remember, but.
I do remember what happened.
Okay. I had to Google it because I was like, I remember it happened. I had just started here. And it was 2014.
Yes,
So I don't.
I do remember. I do remember what happened. Okay.
But that's great information because we get asked that every day, and so I think the more we put that out there, and let people know, hey, it's part of a process. Yeah. it's a-
And then I just have one last thing, is the school zone on North Loop that starts on the other side of the Speedway, that goes all the way to the other side of the shopping center on North Loop. Is there a way that the city can take the lead with TxDOT to make that shorter? Why? Because it causes more chaos than it helps. The school zone goes all the way to, almost in front of the General Dollar Store. That's how far it goes. So it starts on this side and it goes all the way to the other side. And the congestion coming out of the parking lots, trying to move over to the right lane, because the traffic now is going, supposedly it's supposed to be going slower, but, you know, it doesn't either way. Is that, could we, because I don't understand why it went out so far.
Can you locate me, like, it's on North Loop between the Speedways on Rio Vista heading towards Horizon?
Yeah, it's right, the school zone, flashing lights, and right at the corner of.
Warren, maybe?
Where the Dollar Tree, a little bit past the Dollar Tree, which is on this side, it's a little bit past, that's how far it goes on to the other side. Okay, now there are crosswalks, on North Loop, like right in front of the Wendy's. Of course, nobody dares to cross right there, you know, because you can't see them anyways, okay? But I don't understand why they're so far out when the school is right here and Billy's over there, Sanchez is over there, but we're going past the post office, we're going past the storage units, okay? It goes way out there.
Was this a newer one? Or is this has been there for a long?
It's been there for a long time.
Okay, because I remember doing something with the city few years ago that we added some. But I was gonna say, it's a bigger sell to add more school zones, but not take them away. That's the tougher one. I think they look at probably the number of kids that go through there, how many people walk through. It's something that has to be worked out also with the school district.
Okay.
It's a safety thing with parents, so it's something, I mean, you can definitely look at, but they're usually based on some kind of metric of how many feet from a school, how many kids are going through that area. But if it's been there for a while too, I'm not sure,
It's been there for a while.
yeah.
It just causes a lot of congestion, it causes slow up traffic. You can't pull out of the parking lots from the Food King, from the Dollar Tree, from the Wendy's, because the traffic is like bumper to bumper at that point, okay? Because, I mean, it's a 30 speed limit anyway, so, put a 30 speed limit, up there. Make it a 15 on the school zone and make it shorter, to where it accommodates right here, the traffic lights where the cross guards are. I don't know if it's something that.
So I think the way you want to phrase it is if you'd like to direct staff to reach out to Socorro Independent School District to see if that
If they
long
want to
of
come
a
out and
district.
evaluate that area and see if, because the congestion of traffic is horrible, horrible. If I want to turn on Horizon, I have to start changing lanes before I get to the Speedway to get on that far right-hand side, so that I can turn on Horizon to the right, because you can't move over. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Interesting, I never noticed that. I'd blow
It's
right
busy
past it.
streets. You see, it's
So-
9:45.
I never noticed that.
That was on the record too.
I'm oblivious. I'm oblivious.
You lose the flashing light by the time you cross over the post office. You're looking to see, is that light on?
Anything else?
I do, I wanna make a suggestion on, we're talking about the infill lots and what incentives, right, to develop those infill lots, and so I would say have the city of Socorro waive the permitting fees for any development on infill lots. Maybe get the city of Socorro to contribute or pay for the water meter. That's 3,000. Yeah, that's a lot of money. And then maybe do some type of tax incentive from the city of Socorro to where that alone right there is like, I'd say about $5,000-6,000 that whoever develops is saving. And if you put the taxes in there, but I know taxes is a little bit difficult, but maybe the decision making can be like waiving or discounting the permitting fee would help some. Yeah.
Would the water, would that be a bridge too far? Because it is
I don't know, but there would be good things to look into and would require a little more research.
Yeah.
I'm super glad you brought that up because I know that Jose Quiñones, sorry, I was thinking of Botella, sorry. Jose Quiñones is actually working on an economic development plan for the bigger bigger businesses, commercial development, and we had not discussed those infill lots.
The infill lots.
Yeah.
They just sit there.
And maybe we could identify but yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Thank you for bringing that up, yeah. That's phenomenal.
Anything else? No? Okay. Item number 11, Planning and Zoning Department report. Mr. Roteo or Ms. Camilo?
Thank you, Marian. Lorraine Quimito, City Planner. I have a couple of updates and want to bring your attention to a couple of events that the city is hosting or co-sponsoring. First up on the screen is the web page for the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The El Paso MPO is currently undertaking public input gathering for the new long-range transportation plan. If you go to the El Paso MPO webpage and make your way to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, about halfway down, you can click on the link, which will take you to a virtual open house, which is right above the logo, and an interactive map where you can put points, give input, interest to your personal interest, the community, the city, where you feel there's congestion, where roads are needed, where improvements are needed. This is a regional plan. I don't know when the window closes for this process, but this is just one opportunity, I'm sure among many, for people to provide input on the plan and the projects that make it onto the long-range plan for potential funding in the future in the region. And don't forget that the El Paso MPO stretches beyond just El Paso County, but into southern New Mexico. The other effort being undertaken by the El Paso MPO is a plan for the border, I switched gears because I was trying to find information about the successful grant applications that the city has received to address infrastructure. So I got sidetracked, but the other public opportunity for input is the Borderplex Safe Mobility Plan. They currently have a survey open and available, taking input from the public, and this one is geared toward safety and mobility in the El Paso MPO's planning region. Where can we make improvements to all of the different traffic networks? This one is more of questions and less of the interactive map. But hopefully you can make your way to the website and share your thoughts on how we can improve safety in the region. On terms of city projects, we are wrapping up Phase 3 of the sidewalks and hoping to have a walkthrough this week if the weather doesn't insist on trying to blow us away. On Phase 4 has started. They may have just given that start date for the whole project and not necessarily when they were hitting being able to enter into the different neighborhoods. They started on Lupeana and I believe this week making their way over to Puna. The other project that's also closing up and should be having a walkthrough is the Behar Estates lift station. They've finished the improvements to the streets. Unfortunately, when they went in to make the improvements for the lift station and all of the sewer lines, they did have to redo all of the streets in Behar Estates. And then what else? We are wrapping up phase Passmore, shared use path. That should get also a walkthrough on Friday. They have finished all the work in the canal and are finishing up the remainder of the shared use path over the lateral. Where else are we working? Bovee is on schedule. That one won't be completed until the early to mid-April. And then on to their items, community cleanup, March 8th. And the streets for this cleanup are Kendrick, South Rio Vista, Ensenada, Corinth, Conquistador, Gillian, Lanza, De Vaca, Carreta, Haynes, Escudo, Urunga, Celedon, Letona, Olano, South Moon Road, Nicholas, and Holguin. A good place to grab information on this is the City of Socorro's public social media, so Facebook and Instagram, as well as our city website. And then a fun one, the Easter Extravaganza and Color Run, April 19th, Saturday, April 19th, so you can put that on your calendars.
Super fun.
Thank you.
Item number 12, consider and take action on the adjournment of this meeting.
Quick
Do I have a motion? Oh, sorry,
Quick
yes.
question. Any word on the light on going up on North Loop and Bauman? On the traffic signal?
Yes, and I was told, I can bring that up. If you give me a minute. Let's see if I can find it quickly.
I got stuck on traffic on Bauman.
And you were reminded.
Oh my.
It's a dangerous crossing.
And then you're driving down North Loop and people cut in front of you because they've been there for 5 minutes already, you know? It's dangerous.
So while Lorraine is looking for that, what are they building next to the car wash on North Loop?
A shopping center?
It's a shopping center. Okay.
No word on who the occupants are gonna be yet.
No, you can't.
I need one of these in my house.
It's not coming up,
Don't worry.
but I will forward that information to everyone.
Okay.
Okay. So item number 12, consider and take action on the adjournment of this meeting. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyo, second by Yolanda Rodriguez, to adjourn. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstain? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 7:25 PM. Thank you very much.